All right, next award goes to the wide receiver rookie Cornerstone. Now, I think this should be a clean sweep. I don't think we have to go all around.
It is, I would assume.
It'd be Justin Jefferson.
Shocking.
What?
Yeah, come on.
Wide receiver 8 on the year. Scored the most yards ever for a rookie wide receiver, over 1,400 yards, and looked fantastic. And offsetting a guy like Adam Thielen, who also produced out there, and Dalvin Cook, who both were all wide receiver 1s and running back 1 as well. Now, I updated my Dynasty rankings this week, and I moved Justin Jefferson to my 4th overall wide receiver. I moved ahead of DK Metcalf. I moved ahead of A.J. Brown. Now, those are big-time players that I moved him ahead of that anybody would love to have. But Justin Jefferson is 21 years old. And I'm going to tell you guys, I am the biggest DeAndre Hopkins fan out there. Like, he's one of my all-time favorite receivers. I think he's extremely talented. I had Hopkins forever as my Dynasty wide receiver 1. But I gave him a slight bump down because I want to make Arizona, the whole Arizona gives me a little bit of worry out there. We saw a little bit of regression out of a guy like Kyler Murray. Cliff Kingsbury got a little bit more negativity coming his way this year. So
they missed the playoffs, and that's where a lot of that came from.
And Hopkins is still fine, but I was like, I can't put him ahead of Tyreek Hill and Devontae Adams right now. Right. I just can't do it. Hill's a year younger or 2 years younger, and Adams is just a touchdown machine. So I just couldn't do that. And I thought to myself, I was like, with Justin Jefferson, yeah, clearly DeAndre Hopkins is a better receiver right now. It might be the better receiver long-term as well. He's one of the best I've seen to do it. But this isn't a Hall of Fame. This isn't what guy I want on my NFL team for 1 year. This is Dynasty Fantasy Football. And I was telling myself, with Justin Jefferson, I can see myself right now, and I'm pick 111 to 113 in a startup, and there's DeAndre Hopkins, and I take him ahead of a Justin Jefferson. And 11 months from now, I'm kicking myself in the ass for doing that, going, I could have a 22-year-old Justin Jefferson put up pretty close to the same numbers as DeAndre Hopkins, if not better for the 2021 season, and I missed it.
And then you'd have him for the next 5 or 6 years.
Yeah, 100%.
I mean, before he even starts to taper off and get old, or
taper off, man. 7 years, he hits 28. He's in his prime.
Right.
That's 7 years. We just said 3 years is a lifetime. So 3 more years of DeAndre Hopkins, it's great, right? That's great. But I envision that Jefferson's and Hopkins' numbers won't be drastically off out of the 2021 season. They weren't this year. So do I want 3 years of DeAndre Hopkins on a name value? Or do I go all in and say, I want 10 years of Justin Jefferson, 9 years of Justin Jefferson? That is an absolute dynasty lifetime. And I think, we were talking about this before show, like Jared mentioned as well, like sometimes you got to be bold in startups. And I said, if I had a 112 in a startup draft, I would have no problem going Jonathan Taylor, Justin Jefferson for the cornerstone of my franchise. And this award is the running back rookie or wide receiver rookie cornerstone. To me, I think Justin Jefferson is that guy. He's a franchise cornerstone. And there's not even the guys ahead of him. Like, okay, Tyreek Hill is a franchise cornerstone at 26. Devontae Adams at 28. Is he really a cornerstone, or is he a league winner?
I was gonna say he's a league winner. If you're drafting him early, you're going for it immediately. You know what I mean? That you're going for it. That you're probably gonna be bringing on a lot of older players, and then trying to mix in the younger players. That's gonna be your strategy in your startup.
100%. So like, if you would feel really good on paper about like AJ Brown, DK Metcalf, CeeDee Lamb, Justin Jefferson. Like if that's your wide receiver core, like I'm good for 8 years.
You just named my wide receiver.
I know it's a good cornerstone one. So for me, that's what I feel about Justin Jefferson. What about you guys for this?
Go. I'll let Matt go because this is your boy. So go ahead.
Listen, I mean, I'm not going to go nuts. I mean, you've already waxed poetic here. It's 1,400 yards. It's 88 grabs. It's 7 touchdowns on 125 targets. In his rookie year, it's never been done. I mean, going back to, I don't think ever, right? I mean,
it's never been done.
I mean, he was approaching the record before, like they took all the stats, blah blah blah.
Right.
And then he blew it out of the water. It's 1,400 yards. It's never been done. So it's rarefied air. He's exceeded my expectations. You know what I mean? Like I was the highest one on him, and I didn't even see this much production coming. It was
impossible. He'd been the first overall pick. I mean, first besides quarterback. But what's crazy too is, remember, Justin Jefferson didn't start hot out the gates.
No, he didn't.
No, his first 2 weeks were what, like 2 catches and 3 catches, or
2 catches and 3 catches, exactly.
Yeah.
Yep.
So we're talking about a 14-week window here, because obviously we go through weeks 1 through 16. We do our fantasy stats here because that's the fantasy season for most people. But yeah, you're talking about like in a 14-week window, got him up to wide receiver 8 and like all-time numbers here. And we saw that out of, and we saw the same thing out of a quarterback. You could, in a super flex league, you make the same argument with it's Justin Herbert, right?
Sure.
Or you saw enough out
Same type of guy. Yep.
Or you saw enough out of a guy like Joe Burrow, right? Herbert right now to me is a franchise cornerstone in a super flex league, a 21-year-old quarterback that just broke an all-time rookie
record for touchdowns. Yep.
It's about to bring it in. I think the Chargers' biggest fault has been Anthony Lynn holding them back. They're going to bring in a head coach for the Chargers for Justin Herbert and help develop him and keep him going. I think Daboll would be a great head coach for the Chargers. What are your thoughts on Jefferson?
So literally while we were talking, this was something that I was kind of considering too. So I actually currently have Justin Jefferson at wide receiver 5. And I have DeAndre Hopkins at wide receiver 6. So I'm in the same boat. I think it's the changing of the guard time. It's time to put him up there.
Who's that for?
I have Devontae Adams, Tyreek Hill, A.J. Brown, Stephon Diggs.
So you have A.J. Brown ahead of him, which, again, I wouldn't argue that. And I have A.J. Brown behind Hopkins, but I wouldn't argue you're splitting hairs. Somebody's like, hey, dude, why do you have Hopkins ahead of A.J. Brown? I'm like, dude, we're talking 3 spots.
And it's age. I mean, that's age related.
That's
age.
What
I mean, that's what it is. You're getting extra years on both those guys.
But I'd have no problem with Corey Davis probably leaving out of Tennessee. I'd have no problem taking A.J. Brown in the first. I'd have no problem with that. I would have no problem if you were an A.J. Brown truther and you took him first overall amongst receivers.
Well, and the crazy part is A.J. Brown, he actually missed, 2 or 3 games at the very beginning of the season and still finished as a wide receiver 1.
Yep.
His points per game was sick.
It was absolutely absurd.
Yeah, he's another stud. So Justin Jefferson, clearly
the cornerstone, yep.